wonder if I am live now. I cannot tell. Let me see here. I need to check on myself. Two watching. Okay, yeah, I'm seeing my video here. A little old, little delayed. Okay, so I need to add. Okay, how do I get the chat? Sorry guys, it'll be just 1 second trying to get the last things together to put the chat here on the side. This is my second time doing it, so I do not have a lot of experience doing this. I set it up before and now I forgot how to add. Yeah, James. Hi, James. I see James is here. Thanks, Eric. Can hear you, can see you. So I'm gonna try and I need to try and put that on the chat onto Is this gonna work? Pop up? No. 1 second, guys. 1 second. I have to put the chat on here. That's one of the things I set up before I started this. And I'm totally blanking on how I did it. Let's see here. I started. Hold on a second. I think maybe if I open. Sorry, guys. Give me a second. I'm trying to take some trouble tasking. Me, my channel. So how was you guys? Easter. Let me see if I can do it here. I think I can do it here. The chat. Okay, yeah, I think this is it. Pop out chat. Okay, found it. Finally. There's my Natalie. My gachina has arrived. We have James and Natika 902. Okay, I figured it out. Let me put that on here quickly so I can start away. Oh, looks like it is already out. That's what I wanted exactly. Perfecto. Okay, so we have the things kind of put together here how I wanted them. I set this up a couple days ago as I was planning this. And just let me know if the audio is good. I believe everything should be set up okay so you can hear me and see me rather okay. So yeah, I put this presentation thing together because looks like it disappeared there. Okay, we hear you and see you. All right, thanks, Natalie. So let's see here. I don't need this one, right? I don't need that one. We'll keep this one over here. And I made this presentation so that I could basically just kind of ease into this type of thing. I'm not really there we go. I'm not really very experienced in doing this, so I'm gonna throw in live chat here. Oh, live chat goes on top. I'm using these new programs and trying things out, as this is, like I said, this is actually my second live stream. I did one live stream back in Cartagena when I flew over to Cartagena to do some of my videos and to kind of show what it's like to be there, melting in Cartagena for a week with Natalie. That was a really good experience. So I made this presentation so we can kind of ease into talking about Colombia and overall this series that I'm planning to do right now. So this is basically my way of kind of like connecting with all of you, and trying to be able to reach out more to the community, see what the community has to say, and get more feedback directly from you. Hope my background stays up. This is my old background because I printed a new background, and that was super heavy. But I hope this one looks pretty good, I think, right now. So let's go ahead and jump into the presentation. And as you can see right here, I have the presentation kind of formatted in a way where I kind of just talk a little bit about myself. I mean, for people that have seen a lot of my videos, obviously Natalie knows a lot about me, but I wanted to start off with just saying Happy Easter, that this will be my first of what I hoped will be many different types of lives. So I just bought this new microphone so that I can kind of start doing stuff like this. So I got the boom, this is called a condenser mic, and yeah, so just kind of getting into the groove of talking about my life here in Latin America as I do my project. So the format of this will be the intro, me talking a little bit about what I've been doing, and then we'll talk about Colombia and how it is to be an expat here, and where most people are, and just kind of the basics of it to kind of start off the conversation. And I'm gonna write thanks. And yeah, and then at the end, if there are some people here that have any questions, that's kind of where I want to have the kind of Q&A. I mean, obviously, go ahead, write out the questions you have and the comments you have as we go. But that's kind of just how I kind of organized it in my head. So let's go ahead and jump into the presentation then. Let's see here. All right, so who am I? So I kind of wanted to show you that just in a bunch of pictures that I have here, who I am and what I've been doing. So I've been driving my motorcycle from Minnesota. Back in 2022, I started in Minnesota, in St. Cloud, central Minnesota. And this is a picture of me, actually, I took about last week, actually, here in Pereira, which is, near the Medellin, one of the main expat hubs. And this is me and my girlfriend, Natalie. She's living nearby here. And basically, I wanted to include some of the pictures of what took me down here, because it was quite the experience coming down. This is actually, I forgot to put pictures of Guatemala and Mexico, but this is El Salvador, on the beaches here in, El Salvador already has the Pacific coast, so I was on the Pacific coast here checking out kind of the surfing area. And this is in Honduras, in Roatan Island, and over on here to Nicaragua. Then I went over to, a small area, yeah. Went over to Costa Rica, going south. This was on the Caribbean side in Cahuita, and then over on the Panama. This is Pacific side again, going to a place near called Gorgona, near the kind of another expat kind of beach hub that I was trying to check out. Didn't actually end up going. They didn't let me in. This is in Colombia. This is at the main kind of tourist attraction in the coffee region. This is next to Salento, the Cocora Valley, the palm tree valley, famous one here. This is in Quito, in Ecuador. I actually drove through Colombia into Ecuador, and then all the way down here to Peru. This is in Peru, and this was basically like my last kind of set of videos and set of work that I was doing as I was going south, and then I came back up to Colombia. So that's just kind of a little overview of what I've been doing and where I've been, and kind of I wanted to show and talk about why be an expat, okay? Because for people that know me well, they know that I've been living abroad for a really long time. I've been doing this basically since 2012, 2013 maybe it was. I left Hawaii to go live in Asia, and since then it's been kind of for specific reasons that I kind of fell in love with living in other countries. So like the adventure of going somewhere else. I've definitely enjoyed just kind of the new type of thing that you'll be seeing every day, even though there's like complications with having too much adventure. I love that part, that type of adventure, that feeling. Learning new cultures and understanding the way people live and meeting new people. Practicing, language. I speak Spanish and Portuguese, but when you're changing regions, you'll be going from place to place to place where they speak completely different phrases, words, accents. So I'm for people that know me, I am a full-time professional language tutor and teacher for ELA, ESL, Spanish and Portuguese. So basically having that experience and that direct connection with people here in Latin America and LATAM, that's another big part for me. I do also love the food in a lot of LATAM. It's usually fresh. It's usually with a lot of not a lot of places don't have vegetables, but many places do incorporate it into it. This is a picture I put of a stew in Ecuador. This is the fish stew, and what's funny about this picture, you can see my helmet up here. What's funny about this picture is you can see popcorn, right, in this stew. So this is one of the other parts of living abroad where you just like find weird things that you wouldn't think would even exist. You're like, what is this, popcorn? Like, I'd send pictures to my friends and they're like, oh my god. It's just a funny thing. So yeah, you go into different places like Peru with their amazing ceviche. Here in Colombia, I'm going to talk a bit more about the local food here, and that's kind of what's going to be our main topic today. And geo arbitrage. So that is going to a place that you feel more comfortable, where things are. The sound is a bit muffled. Are you too close to the microphone? Okay, I'm going to go back. Thanks for that, James. I'm going to turn it down actually. Is that better right there? Is this better? Yeah, I'm seeing it was in the red, but I couldn't really hear myself too well on the replay. But yeah, maybe this will be better. Let me know, guys. So as geo arbitrage is when you're taking advantage or benefiting from being in a different place that has a different currency, cost of living, and so if you're earning in dollars or euros or Swiss francs or whatever it is, and then you go somewhere that has a currency that isn't as powerful with a lower cost of living, then you can really take it, enjoy what they offer in their country, and also not, have to throw down ridiculous amounts of cash, like going back to the US or Canada or certain places, just to, do the basics. That's kind of one of the massive benefits of being an expat. So that's something I learned at an early age when I was going to, when I went to Asia for the first time. I was blown away at how insanely cheap it was. And then coming back to Latin America, I was like, wow, there are some places that are as cheap as Vietnam. Vietnam was the cheapest place I ever lived, and I would live there for 5 years. So yeah, geo arbitrage was something I kind of learned and was not quite so familiar with until I did that first move abroad to actually work and continue living. Whereas before I lived abroad, but as a student, I did study abroad and lived in Brazil and Chile. So I have a lot of experience in Latin America, but like living as an expat instead of, just a student, that was kind of a little transition for me at that point. Anyways, let's go on to talk about what experience I have here in Colombia. So again, for people that do actually know me, and people I talk to, I remember chatting with James, a Canadian guy here that is here in Pereira as well. He actually saw him at the gym today. And yes, speaking of Colombia, I just got this fresh new jersey, special edition jersey, which I like the colors of. A little bit different from the regular yellow and blue and red from the flag. So yeah, I actually have a lot of experience in Colombia, and that's why I think this is a good place for us to start this series, because I've been here on and off since 2018. So, 2018, that's 7 years ago. I did my first trip. I was in South America already. I was in Brazil, and I flew over here, and yeah, I loved it. Just absolutely loved it. Yeah, Brazil and Colombia are special for me, so I really enjoy both of those. So overall, a bit more than 2 years, possibly even up to 3 now that I've been here for almost the full 4 months of this year already. And I've done most of that time. I spent most of it in Medellin, probably a year and a half. Pereira, about 6 months now. In Bogota, I did, I think, 2 or 3 months. So yeah. And then I've been in other places as well, but these are the main spots I've been in. Yeah, I spent a month in Taganga, weeks here and there, all around Cali. Just went to Cali with Natalie, and that was a fantastic time. And looks like I got a question here, Eric. Do you recommend Cali or Bucaramanga for family, life, things to do, safety, cost of living? All right, Fiat Lux 89. I'm going to get to that in a minute, all right, because I got a lot of things that I can show you about Cali and Bucaramanga for you to see, and then I can kind of touch on what I missed after that, okay, Fiat? So on this project that I've been doing 10 months of it on my bike, and then the other year and a half, you could say, was in buses and flights and all the standard stuff. So that I have kind of experiences in both sides of doing everything as my own transportation independently, and also doing it as everyone else without transportation would do. So this is actually the third country I know pretty much the best in LATAM, after Brazil and Mexico, because Brazil and Mexico I've spent about 3 years in them as well. So let's go on and just talk about Colombia. So enough about me, let's move on. This is just kind of some basics. I know a lot of people that are actually watching live here already, so thanks for watching. Anyways, thanks for coming on, spending your Easter night with me. I really appreciate it. Yep. So Colombia, as you know, as people know in general, it's very culturally rich, and it has a long history. It's very, very interesting history. And the capital is Bogota, right? So I lived in the capital city for about 3 months. And that was back. I was back before COVID, so back in 2019, and it's only gotten bigger and crazier. But I think it's a pretty great place to live now. So the official language is Spanish. Everyone knows that most of LATAM is Spanish, and that's, I think, a benefit for a lot of people when they're looking to live abroad, because Spanish is pretty easy, especially for us North Americans, to learn, because our country has so much influence from Latin America, Mexico being our neighbor. And so 51, actually it's more than 51, I think it's 56 or something now, but yeah, it's in the 50 millions. So it's one of the most populous countries in in Latin America. The first will be Mexico, second is Argentina, and then third is Colombia. So yeah, it's actually, because of its size, it's actually incredibly influential. And that shows because of the telenovelas, right? You have telenovelas from Mexico or from Colombia, not only because of the acting is good and the people are really good actors, and they're good at dramatizing their culture or whatever, but also because of their influence in the region because of that big population. So that is something I learned going through all of Central America, was that when you're in places like countries with really small populations, for example, I remember going to Costa Rica and then El Salvador, those places, I mean, most things are like imported. There's so many things that they don't actually make because they're so small. They just can't. And yeah, so you're gonna have to pay the extra high prices. For example, I eat Greek yogurt every day. I love Greek yogurt. It's a great thing for breakfast. I mix it with fruit. and you'll see that in later pictures. But the price in Costa Rica for getting imported yogurt, I remember it was like $14, which I'm gonna make a one of our Living in LATAM live series on Costa Rica. I don't really have that many videos out about it because I was actually busy with my mom visiting and didn't get around to as many videos there as in the other countries. But yeah, anyways, so being that it's so big, it has a very influential, it's very influential in the region. So I wanted to just jump into the main phrases that people say here, because I actually, I teach basic Spanish. I know a lot of people that come here, they like practicing Spanish, and there's actually I looked this up for this presentation, and there was one I didn't really know, which like I said, that's part of the fun of being an expat, living abroad, doing this geo arbitrage type of life. So que hubo is written like this. What's up? So que hubo is a very Colombian phrase. You won't hear anywhere else. So that's kind of something that's kind of unique here. A la orden is not super Colombian. You hear that a lot actually, but you hear it from daily here, whereas maybe in other countries it's not as common. But parce and parcero, that is super Colombian, super Colombian, which means, friend, dude, bro, right? And people actually do say bro here as well. I have friends, Colombian friends. Hey, bro, ¿cómo estás, bro? Like, they don't speak like any English, but bro. And Natalie just commented, muestre a ver. Yeah, that is true. Another expression that I actually picked up from my girlfriend, Natalie, and I didn't really know it was so common until I heard her say it often in our family. And then in the street, I heard it all the time. Muestre a ver, muestre a ver. Yeah, it's very, maybe it's a Colombia thing or Pereira. I'm not sure if it's a super local thing or if it's a full all of Colombia. Maybe Natalie can let us know. No dar papaya. So papaya is a very common tropical fruit here, and this is an expression that means don't make yourself an easy target. Okay, so no des papaya, don't give him or don't give your papaya fruit, which is a funny cultural thing, like common fruit, don't give it away. So don't make yourself an easy target. Estoy amañado for girls. I feel comfortable here, I've settled in. Yeah, so like I always saw it as like, almost in love with the place. Amando, kind of spelt similar, but different meaning. De una. So if anyone goes to the low-cost supermarkets like me, I like buying all the basics, rice, beans, and all that stuff in de una. D1. D1 is de una in Spanish. So it means right away or let's do it. Una chimba, awesome, right? So when people look at my bike, for example, like, oh, yeah, chimba, una chimba, and then I always respond, una chimbita, a little bit awesome. Fresco, fresca, right? Fresco. I haven't really, noticed this one super common, but I definitely hear it. But this is one I didn't know. Jartera. So I don't know if Natalie wants to chime in here, or any Spanish speakers know this one. Jartera, I never even knew about this one. Something boring or annoying. And then rumba, of course, for people that, especially that live in Cali. For example, my buddy Scott, he looks like Natalie says jartera. Okay. Jartera is for real. So yeah, rumba, party, nightlife, dancing. Let's go rumbear. Right, to go dancing is the verb. So yeah, I wanted to just talk a little bit about that because Colombia, and just like everywhere else in Latin America, the regional dialect will change, and this is it's a very rich country with their own regional dialect, and literally, I mean, you won't hear these phrases outside of it. So yeah, it's kind of a funny thing if I say oiga pues, very Spanish, Colombian style Spanish, everyone else, if I'm gonna say that in Peru when I'm going down, or Ecuador, they will be like, why are you speaking Colombian Spanish? So people notice. Anyways, let's move on to location. So where is Colombia? I'm pretty sure everyone knows that's on this chat. I'm not even sure how to see who's here, but Top chat. Yeah, I'm not really sure how to do that. But yeah, anyways. Colombia is in the northern part of South America, and for the Spanish speakers, the middle of the one America they believe in. The education systems are different from North America to South America and Latin America. So the Latin Americans are taught there is one country, America, and we're taught there's two. So this is written by an English speaker because English-speaking world believes there's two Americas. And yeah, so it's in the northwestern part of South America. Now there's five neighbors: Venezuela to the east, Brazil to the east, and Peru to the south, Ecuador to the south, and Panama to the north. All right, so I will be driving through Ecuador next month as I continue through South America, and then make my way over to Peru, where I believe I'll be starting my Peru part of the channel in Cajamarca or Trujillo. Maybe go to the beach. I think middle of their dry season there might be good. It's not going to be hot, and it's going to be not rainy, so that'll be nice. Anyways, I have a map here to show you. Now, for people familiar, they will all know, but I'm going to point out the main expat hubs. Where are the expats, right? Where do most North American is what I searched for specifically. Where do most North American expats live? And supposedly, according to this research, up to around 5,000 or even more live in Medellin alone. Okay, so Medellin is up here in Antioquia. That's where I've spent most of my time in Colombia. Bogota. Right, so that's in the eastern. So Colombia has three main mountain ranges. There's the eastern mountain range, central mountain range, where I am now, and then the western mountain range. So Bogota's in the eastern Andes. They call it the Cordillera, which is just the mountain range. And so Bogota has 2,400 estimate, capital city. We have Barranquilla, which is one of the hottest cities I've been to in Colombia. I'm not sure which one's hotter, Cartagena or Barranquilla, but Barranquilla was incredibly hot. I visited that when I was living in Taganga and next to Santa Marta. It says here Santa Marta has around 1,000 expats, which I guess I could see that happening. Bucaramanga, close to that, 500 to 1,000 is about around the same estimate. So, yeah, Bucaramanga from Fiat Lux asking, this is actually quite a popular place for people to live in Colombia. I spent a month there, and I didn't make that many, or I haven't published at least the videos I made there. So, yeah, Bucaramanga is a little bit... there's not as much content on that specific city, which I wish I would have made a bit more, but it's okay. You gotta go with the flow. So it's on this list, at least it's maybe number 4 of the top cities, and that Bucaramanga is up here next to Venezuela. So yeah, Venezuela, it's just 4 hours. Cucuta, and in the border right here going up to Venezuela is right there. So that's where the majority of the expats live. I mean, this list didn't give Cali and some other stats. I know there's a lot in Cali, probably not as much as Medellin. I have some more information about that a bit later. So let's talk a bit about visas. Now, there are basically 3 main types of visas. There's the visitor's visa, which is like the tourist permit. I'm on the tourist permit, right? So I have up to 180 days per year, and this actually resets every calendar year. So I spent 6 months here, and my 6 months ended in September, and then I came back in January. And in other countries like Peru and Colombia, you actually have to wait the full 365 days from your first initial entry. So that's actually a difference here for Colombia with a lot of countries, actually. We have the M visa, which is for temporary residency. For example, I was chatting with a buddy of mine here, James from Canada, and he is looking at the investment migrant visa. So the investment one, we'll jump into that, what that requires. But yeah, that one we have down here, the most common migrant visa is down here. And then last one is the permanent residency, which you can get after a certain amount of time with the migrant visa. So you have to prove that you actually want to be here, and 2 to 5 years, it says, continuous residence for 2 to 5 years. And that's, permanent indefinite visa. So the three main ones I wanted to touch on here was the retirement visa. So the retirement visa right now in 2025 is the equivalent of 3 minimum monthly wages. So the monthly wage right now, I think, is like 1,400,000 pesos. So it shows right here that 3 times is about 1,030. So we're talking about 300, maybe 40 or $350 is the minimum wage, and that's how a lot of countries, I think, if not all of them, I haven't really looked into every single country so far, but the 3 times minimum wage seems to be a pretty standard way to measure that. The duration of that is 1 to 3 years, and these key requirements you'll need are the standard, just an apostilled pensionado proof. So basically your income, your social security if you're from the U.S., the social security proof, apostilled, criminal background check, health insurance, and you'll need to stay 180 days per year or more in Colombia. So you can't leave the country for more than half the year. So it's a little bit more strict on that. The pathway is, this one says after 5 years. However, this one says 2 to 5. So I think you have to just play that by ear to see what the stats are for your specific type of migrant visa you're getting. Real estate investment. This is the one I was chatting with James about. 120,000 is Bucaramanga is a family-oriented family. I think she meant family-oriented city. Yeah. So to give you a long story short, Fiat Lux 89. Yeah, the Bucaramanga city it seemed very good for staying out of kind of like the Medellin style party vibes. So if you are checking out any of the videos from the Bucaramanga playlist, let me see if I can pull that one up. Actually, I was going to try and show that one as well here. Let's see. Sorry. I'm going to try and get this one up so I can show you guys. I wanted to show you because I think, some pretty useful playlists on my channel. And in the Colombia playlist, I guess I don't have that for the city itself, but for the Colombia playlist, you will see there's a couple interviews with Jeremy, who's living there, and he's been living there for quite a while. So he's a really good person. Some good information to have about. Hold on, let's see here if I can. Okay, let me bring that down, bring that up. Sorry about that, guys. Let me. Country playlist. This is the one. Okay, so here is my playlist that I have for Colombia, and so you can see it's all around the entire country. We have, this is in Medellin, Cartagena, Poblado, Medellin again. So yeah, there's a couple chats. For example, here we have a chat with Jeremy. Cost of living, it's insane. So he talked about his personal story and why he moved down, and then we talked about things that people like to do in this video right here. Why nobody talks about Bucaramanga. It is a really good city for people that like outdoor activities and also parks specifically. So I want to point that out, that it's definitely has that benefit for parks and for being really close to lots of beautiful nature as well. Now, oh no, where'd you go? Okay, gotta move this stuff around. A little bit complicated for me to do this. All right, back to here. So, yeah, so back to the property, buying property, real estate investment. So the estimated amount of what you would need to spend to get this visa, when I was chatting with James, he mentioned 120,000. That's spot on. So basically, I remember when I came here in 2000, what was it, 18, 19, 20, I was talking to people, they said it was like 70, 80,000. So yeah, basically these things, they continually go up, and you can see that in Mexico, where their standards and requirements for their visas are incredibly high right now. They're basically weeding out all of the low-income people, and yeah, they're really really aiming for a very specific type of expat there, very specific type of migrant. So yeah, 120,000 is the minimum to get this investment visa, and that's if you're to spend 100,000, you won't get it, which is kind of crazy if you spend all this money, and in the end, you actually have to spend a certain amount that is going to give you the visa, or you spend 100,000, you won't even have the visa. So you'd have to figure out how to come back and forth, and I guess it's a bit risky, to not have an guaranteed way to go back to your property. I'm checking out Tom here, Tom M. If you want to live in Barranquilla, you might as just live on a Caribbean island. If I decide to choose Colombia, I would definitely choose Cali. Still a great deal for retirees at only $1,000. So at only $1,000, is that something that you're paying right now, Tom, for rent, or what are you referring to about the grand? Yeah, Cali is also. I'm going to show a bunch of pictures about Cali as well. Cali is a good city. I've done quite a bit less research in this city, but I have spent a couple of weeks there and did as much as much content, and I felt quite safe, and it did feel quite like a livable city. And the altitude, actually, we'll talk about the weather and elevation and how that affects living in Colombia a little bit later. But yeah, that one's at 1,000 meters, which actually is probably pretty close to my minimum elevation in the tropics, because unless you're on the cold coast on the Pacific coast, where it's cool water that cools down the air, because if you're in the Caribbean, that's too hot for me. That's just too hot for me. Yeah, Cartagena, I was melting for the entire time I was there. Okay, so yeah, so keep in mind the $120,000 to get the investment visa. And then you can apply for permanent residency after 5 years. Proof of property ownership is needed for this visa. Maintain your investment value, I guess. If it drops below that value, you might have problems, I guess. That definitely is complicated. If anyone knows anything more about that, then let me know. And then there's a business investment visa. That would require a significant business investment. So whatever that actually means, I guess there's no specific information online about that. Typically so a lot of these are 1 to 3 years. You can see there's a kind of a repetition here, and yeah, getting permanent residency takes quite a bit longer. Some places I think you can apply a lot faster. I think Mexico was one of them before. I'm not sure how it is now, but yeah, to look into those details, you would definitely want to hire your Colombian lawyer just to make before you pull any triggers on that. So, or a person that knows the Colombian law. Yeah, so again, let's talk about a little bit about the visa duration. So 5 years continuous is required for the permanent, according to this research. So the types of visas that you can use to apply for the permanent is the migrant visas, what we just mentioned here. So this one says at least 1 day every 2 years to maintain residency. That must be after permanent residency, because before, I remember talking to people and reading, that it's 180 days, like more than half the year. You have to show commitment. Yeah, so Fiat looks, I saw your recent one in Bucaramanga. Do you have any on Cali? So I'm going to try and get out a couple on Cali that I made with Natalie. we didn't have super large amounts of time to do in-depth research about like cost of living, for example, or to show any properties there. But I definitely have a contact that is going to appear in one of my newer videos as well, Scott, who's living in Cali from Chicago. He's also in my Colombia playlist here. So let me pull that one back up. Can you see it? Yeah, there it is. So Scott over here, he has some great information as well. He's a military veteran that worked in the Space Force, and he actually has properties. My newer videos are going to be about him having properties in Medellin and in Cali. So he definitely has a cool story to tell as well. So that's a fun one to watch. I'll have that out soon as well. Okay, let's go back. All right, so yeah, let me know if you guys. Okay, Tom says. Sorry, I'm gonna go back to Natalie. Cali can get a bit dangerous. Bucaramanga felt super safe and clean. Yeah, I mean Cali has that. I think what Natalie's referring to is kind of like the news. It's always news about the worst things that can possibly happen, and I feel like that's kind of what people are watching. Really, I mean, maybe it's the percentage is a little bit higher of possible crime that could happen to you, but I think a lot of times it's kind of mafia and mafia, and it's you just see that on the news a lot more. Here's James Von Stiffout. I think I'm saying that right. Hey Eric. Hey James. How you doing? Tom M says, no, I was talking about the minimum pension for retirees being only $1,030 a month. I have permanent residency in Mexico. It is now about $7,000 a month. Oof. Yeah, so that's super high. Yeah, that's 7 times more. Love Mexico, but never hurts to have multiple residencies. Yeah, I definitely can see that benefit, and there's a couple of YouTubers that talk about that. The Nomad Capitalist, he's all about, spreading his time or spending his time between multiple places. And I to be honest, I do that myself. I really enjoy kind of changing places and not being in the same place for the entire year. And that there's a lot of benefits that come along with that. So yeah, Tom, you have permanent residency in Colombia as well, or just in Mexico? Yeah, so there's some benefits for having your permanent residency. Although you wouldn't want to work in Colombia as a North American expat. I really doubt that unless you're starting a business with the business visa. You have some access to healthcare. In my interviews that I had, for example, in Cartagena, when I was interviewing I'll show you guys on the playlist here. When I was interviewing this young lady from Australia, she talked about going to the hospital after accidents and whatnot, and she had she went to a variety of the super basic free ones and then the private ones, and yeah, she said they're all quite good, all very very reasonable for here, for their quality and what they're given to her and the price. So yeah, so going back to the key documents, yeah, I think the standard for most countries: passport, visa proof, criminal checks, income proof. So you need to meet that threshold if you're going to be the retiree, 3 times the minimum salary, $1,030. Health insurance. Natalie, she pays for her own health insurance and is mandatory here in Colombia. So it's kind of a weird thing that not even in the U.S. we have mandatory health insurance. So it's kind of interesting. From what I understand, it's mandatory for everyone here. Medical certificate, photos, proof of residence. So yeah, the permanent residency is, from what I'm understanding, a little bit easier in some countries. But the limits here in terms of like actual money, that part is definitely not high. So that's a big benefit for here. Yeah, so I wanted to show a little bit about a few photos of the places that I have been spending time in the expat hubs that we're talking about. and just to give you guys a little bit of a view of my experience around Colombia. So, yeah, I was just in Cali with, and this is me and Natalie, at the Jesus statue. They have their own little Jesus statue that was built, I think it was like 20, 30 years after the massive Brazil one in Rio. Yeah, Bucaramanga. This is a restaurant over in Bucaramanga. Here's James Von Stiffout. Hey, it's Baru. I was in Baru last week. Baru Island. Baru. Is that Cartagena? Is that what you're talking about, James? Yeah, I think that's, I can't remember the name of this island, to be honest. But yeah, there was an excursion I went on with Natalie when we were visiting. Because I didn't have my bike there. I didn't drive up. Yeah, he's talking about, all right, okay, so I'm James. Yeah. I think this is the Playa Tranquila. But yeah, it's Playa Blanca. Yeah, Playa Blanca, but I think also it's one of the parts. It's me from the gym, by the way. Oh, James. Okay, James from the gym. Okay, I didn't know your last name, Bon Stefan. Okay, yeah, yeah. So this is yeah, the Playa Blanca area. I think it was called, this particular part was Playa Tranquila. But yeah, we had a great time going there. Spent a bit more than we needed for the excursion. If we would have had my bike, it would have been a lot easier and faster. We got stuck in the bus traffic for like an hour and a half trying to leave. It was on a holiday, so it's always good to avoid going to the hot spots, the tourist locations, especially on holidays like right now, Semana Santa, right? Because Holy Week and Easter is huge here. Natalie says yes, close to Baru. Like first is Playa Blanca, then Tranquila, then the last one is Baru. Yeah, so I think. Yeah, I think we didn't make it specifically out to Baru, but we're on the way there, yeah. Here it is. This is a picture of one of the parks you'll see if you go to Bucaramanga. I think this is probably our favorite one, Natalie and mine. When we were there, we went up and took some pictures, did little videos, and it was a nice, beautiful day. Bucaramanga, also just like Cali, is it around the same elevation, 1,000. So great weather, and yeah, this is a picture of one of their parks. This is the city of parks, as it's known. Yeah, so here we have Bogota. This is at the hike going up to the church, and I went there in March. This is when I first arrived, actually, when I drove down and set my motorcycle in the cargo plane coming down. So anyways, these are some of the main cities where expats are living. I think these are probably the top 5. I doubled up on Bucaramanga here. This is the restaurant we went to around the time of Natalie's birthday. All right, so all these people that I see on here, I think most of them have been a lot of time in Colombia, so they recognize all the main spots. I actually haven't been to all of these myself. So this one is Tayrona. So this is actually one I went to within the first couple of years. I think everyone that comes here, they're like, oh, okay, they hear so much about it, about the Caribbean coast, of course, but beyond that, specifically about Tayrona. And yeah, so I did a pretty long hike, actually. I started in through like the not the main entrance, but I ended leaving through the main entrance and hiked in, brought a tent and sleeping bags, and yeah, camped over there on the beach, and then went over and exited through another part. So I think the last city was on that hike, and that it wasn't possible to visit when I was there. So here you have Tom M. Do you have to start the residency process in the U.S., Canadian, European consulates before going to Colombia? Do you know? Claro que yo hablo español, ya. Lived in PR for many years. Puerto Rico? Okay, great. Yeah, I haven't been to Puerto Rico, actually, Tom. But yeah, my sister, she's gone there. A lot of people I know have been, and yeah, it's definitely a place that is very unique. Those Caribbean islands are pretty amazing, that area. So in general, when it comes to doing visas, I think that the general idea is that you could definitely start the process while you're in the country. Many times I always suggest for people to spend quite a while in the country, to make sure they want to live there. And I always suggest to just start on the tourist visa. So yeah, the tourist visa in general for a lot of these countries is 6 months already for the year. So, you've already lived in many places. So, yeah, I think, it's important, just like me, that getting your foot in the door, making sure you're comfortable. I mean, what happens, after a year and you realize that, things weren't like you expected them. Things aren't what you expect them to be later after, the whole honeymoon thing wears off. So that being said, that's just for your own kind of emotional, or for your own way to like figure out if you actually want to stay there. In terms of the documentation, so what Natalie just mentioned here is Rob said it's better to start the process in your own country because of the time and apostle process. So that's definitely what I was going to say about the benefits of starting in your own country, is that you won't have to pay for the translations. For example, if you want to apostle something here in Colombia, you have to translate it into Spanish, or you have to pay for the extra services. They won't be as fast. They'll be more expensive. Is it possible? Yes, definitely. It won't take forever, but it'll take a little bit longer, and it will be more expensive. So depending on how much of a rush you're in, how much of a hurry you're in, having the papers, what is recommended, I would say, for anyone that like really knows they want to stay in a new country, is to have just the standard documents that they want to present. If they're thinking, I want to apply for the investment visa, just have all the documents, just the basic documents of your passport and, apostilled original documents. Because a lot of times I think governments only accept them for up to 6 months. So if you bring something and you decide to apply for, apply for residency a year later, or the documents take a while to process, then they become invalid anyway. So there's kind of a little bit of a complication within that. James says, I think it depends what visa as well. I have been also checking for a Colombian visa myself. Yeah, James actually mentioned that you are looking at buying a property, and that the amount that you need, I have it over here, the amount that you need to spend is around 120,000 for that investment, if you want the investment one. So, and for people looking for the retirement one here, again, I'll mention it's 1,030. So yeah, it's quite a bit less than what we're talking about in Mexico, close to 7. Yeah. James says investor visas require 500 million pesos. Yeah, so that's quite the investment. So you want to make sure that you're comfortable. My main idea and my main message about that is you want to make sure you're comfortable with the place before you do make any really important, life decisions. So yeah, So another place I haven't been to is the Salt Cathedral of Zipaquirá. So this is, from what I understand, really close to Bogota. I haven't been there, and I definitely want to visit there at some point. But yeah, when I was in Bogota, I was just, it was actually very cold when I was there. And the year I was there, I think it was 2019, it was freezing for me. I wasn't expecting it at all. But now, I don't know if it's like warmer nowadays than before, but when I went back this past year, I was like, man, the weather here is perfect. I'm not sure why I was so cold before, but yeah, maybe it's different, or maybe I just got used to being in the mountains. So in terms of tourist spots that I have been to recently, in the past couple of years in Colombia, these were the two that I popped up on here. This is going to both in Antioquia. This is next to Medellin. If you go to the flower festival in Medellin, the flowers come up from this area next to Medellin. I'm blanking on the name of the city. Let me check here quickly. Santa Elena, yeah, that's the one. So Santa Elena is a very beautiful little pueblo, and yeah, they come down from the mountain with their flowers, and it's a cool festival to definitely to experience once if you come to Colombia and you want to check out their culture and such. So Gachina Natalie says, haha, I'm surprised. And you surprised about what? The investor visa or what? Okay, so this is Santa Elena, and this is Guatapé. This is back actually when it was dry. You can see how it was very dry because of the cold. I mean, like I said, I think maybe I got accustomed to the colder weather. I mean, I'm from Minnesota, so I mean, I sleep in cold weather, but having like cold all day long, especially I think maybe it was rainy season when I was there, so it was raining a lot. And when it's damp, when it's humid and cold, that's the weather I don't really like, and that's why I try to avoid the mountains, high mountains when it's rainy season. So yeah, this is Guatapé when it was quite low. Yeah, so something that here's Brooke. Hey Brooke, forgot about the 2-hour time difference. Yeah, so my bad on that, Brooke. I forgot to put CTS down in Colombia, so you are on the east or west coast, right? So yeah, my bad for not pointing that out. I didn't actually. I made my short to remind people and to let people know about. Oh yeah, by the way, it's CTS. I wrote that into the title, but yeah, totally. I planned it in advance, so I think for the future ones, when I have this already planned out, you can see the actual time. If you go onto the channel and you go onto the scheduled video, you can see the exact time in your own time zone, from what I understand. So yeah, here is the geography of Colombia, which is something that it makes it quite a bit different, and this is one of its huge benefits comparing it to Central America, because Central American mountain ranges are in general pretty low compared to the Andes. The Andes just it's a beast, and that's what gives these mountain cities such amazing weather. And since the mountains are quite a bit lower and there aren't big cities in a lot of the big mountains, besides like Tegucigalpa was actually at perfect weather conditions, which we're going to talk about after this, is how elevation plays a role and how good the city is to live in. So yeah, the geography, we have the coastal part, we have the rock, the mountains, the Andes, like I showed you guys before, the 3 different mountain chains, and then we have what's called the Oriente, which they split it into 2 in Colombia, the grasslands, and then the Amazon. So features a diverse range of landscapes from the Andes, tropical rainforests, beautiful coastlines. It runs through the country, providing opportunities for hiking and exploring. So hiking, I don't know, let me know if you guys are big into hiking. I absolutely love hiking. And Natalie and I did a lot of that in Santander when we were there. I think that's what Brooke Rochelle, she's interested in that area as well. So hi Brooke, I hope you're having a good Easter. Yeah, the hiking in Santander surprised me quite a bit. It's pretty amazing, and there's a lot of great hiking here as well in Risaralda and in the Coffee region. It's very wet here, so comparing it to my time in Santander, it was much, I think, more fun there because we didn't have to worry about like heavy rainfalls, like getting us drenched in the middle of a hike. It's just beautiful blue skies. I mean, at least at the time we went there, which was it was around July, I think. So anyways, the Amazon rainforest covers a significant part of the southern Colombia, right? So if you go down and you take a flight, I actually flew down to try to cross into Brazil on the land border there. And I wonder if it's actually on here. I don't think it is. Yeah, you can't really see it, but over in the south over here where Colombia has the border with Peru and Brazil. I tried to cross into Brazil right after, like a year after the COVID happened, and when we were kicked out, and then I ended up not being able to cross over in that. That's the Brazil side is called Tabatinga. Leticia is the place. So yeah, that's the area we're chatting about here in the geography part. So yeah, a significant part of the southern Colombia has a vast array of wildlife. So a lot of people come to the rainforest for the wildlife, and there's many different countries that have the Amazon. You can go to, obviously, Brazil has the biggest part, but then you can go to the Ecuadorian part, the Peruvian part, and I believe Bolivia also has as well. Yeah, Colombia's coastlines along the Pacific, the Caribbean Sea, and the Pacific Ocean offer some of the most beautiful beaches and diving spots. Well, I'm not really so sure about how great the diving. If you guys know any good diving spots that you've been to, I know that there's a lot of good diving in Honduras, like in the Caribbean. I feel like the Pacific Ocean isn't great for diving because it's just such heavy, strong waves. Here we have Brooke saying, "I was interested until we went this summer. Now we have our sights set on the outskirts of Medellin, like Retiro and Rio Negro." Yeah. So Retiro and Rio Negro are some good areas as well. I drove around those spots, stopped in a couple of the little pueblos when I was there. Brooke, I met up with some expats that were trying to find their future home. Also, they scheduled a consultation with me, and we chatted about what I felt were good options for them. They were kind of like in the middle of really making a kind of a big life decision, and I just tried to guide them the best I could. And we actually ended up meeting up in that area. Let me try and find the exact name of it because I keep on blanking on the exact places we have here. So yeah, this is Medellin. Rio Negro is here, and they were staying actually over here in Llano Grande, from what I remember, or was it here? Or maybe it was, yeah. We ended up stopping for some food and some drinks over here at the San Antonio de Pereira. So that was actually the first time I saw that name before I ended up coming down here for the first time last year. I'm like, San Antonio? Isn't Pereira like a bigger city? It's this like super tiny like pueblo that people go to. And I actually went there on a holiday. It was just bumping. It was super busy, and people were, they're having a good time there. So it's actually not super far away. From what I remember, it was like a hour drive. So not far from going there from Medellin. And yes, Brooke, you're looking at Rio Negro and this Llano Grande, from what I understand. Yeah, this area is kind of a flatter area. Good elevations, a bit higher. From what I remember, it was like closer to 2,000 meters. Not so low as Medellin is at about 1,500. So maybe you like that cooler weather, which I'm definitely a big fan of. I'm team cool weather as well. I'm starting to really enjoy the higher altitudes as I'm getting a little bit older. I'm gonna grab a drink here. I'm super thirsty. Give me 1 second. All right, guys. So, looks like my speaker wasn't in before. It wasn't in properly. That's why. No wonder. Yeah. So, my Easter drink right here is Club Colombia. I'm gonna get some beers here to wet my whistle. Sorry, wrong expression. As we continue on. Yeah, salute to you guys. Oh no. Oh, that's beer on the ground. That is beer on the ground. Salute to you guys. I hope you all had a good Easter celebration with family or friends. This is definitely one of the top beers in Colombia. Club Colombia. I like the black one specifically. That one's a good one as well. Oh, so I couldn't hear myself before. Now I can hear myself way better. Didn't have it plugged in properly, I think. Okay, so we have Brooke wrote, "We need an international school though because our child doesn't speak Spanish yet. I think the Vermont school is bilingual there in Retiro." Yeah, so that definitely makes sense. Yeah, because I think in general in Latin America, if you're here with children, you want them in the international schools. Um, it's kind of hit or miss with public schools. I'm not sure of too many countries in Latin America that has like super high quality public school education. So yeah, that seems like a pretty good idea on your part. Yeah, to put them in there. Elaine Bergeron, sorry if I butchered your name. Question: I was told we need yellow fever vaccine to enter Colombia. So my story for you actually is that my first time coming here from Brazil, I mentioned it a little bit before, that my first time was here in 2018, and I flew in, or I tried to fly in from Brazil, going to Colombia, and because I was flying from a part of Brazil that has the fiebre amarilla, that has the yellow fever, they didn't let me fly into Colombia. And I ended up having to go around to other countries to fly in. And I ended up missing that flight. And I think it's always a good idea when you're coming here to this area of the world. I still have my yellow fever vaccine, and I guess it's gonna probably expire. I think they're only valid for 10 years. Maybe they're lifelong vaccine. I can't remember exactly, but I would definitely suggest that for you, Elaine, Alan. I'm not sure how to say that. I think it's a good idea just to have it for the future for whatever countries you might want to go to. For example, what happened to me, I could have avoided being rejected on my flight. I was like, I checked in. I'm like, all right, here's my bags. All right, where's your yellow fever vaccine? And my what? Oh, if you leave from this specific airport, this specific region of Brazil, you actually need it. So yeah, if you want to just avoid any complications, I definitely suggest that. James says I also read that today. So yeah, I think you definitely need yellow fever for Tyrona Park. That seems about right as well. Yeah. So overall, I think it's not a bad thing to do. I think I actually ended up getting my yellow fever when I came to Colombia on this trip, on the first trip. After I kind of circled around to two other countries that would allow me to go in there from, I think I went over to Chile and then Chile to Peru and then Lima, directly to Medellin. And that's how I ended up getting in. So I ended up getting the yellow fever shot here. I think it was $20 or $25. So yeah, I'm not sure what it costs. Let me know if you guys are thinking about getting it done in your countries and how much it costs, because I did actually get some shots done in Minnesota before my first trip down to Latin America and going to Peru. But I was so young, I can't remember at all what they costed before and what they will cost now. Who knows? Yeah, Lane Bergon, you too. Tom M. Cerveza Schaffer es la mejor cuando se toma más que una. Google it, huh? Okay, let me take a peek here. I've never seen this word. Cerveza looks German to me. Let's see what we got here. Is this the one you're talking about? Schaffer? American beer made in New York. My guess is you're from New York, is that right? Or from that area. I mean, Minnesota, I don't think I've ever seen this in Minnesota. We have our own, like, kind of, this looks like the beer 30 that we have in Minnesota, like the kind of low quality water beer that's like the cheapest thing you could possibly buy if you just want to sit around and drink water beer and feel a slight buzz. Yeah, so like Hams, for example. I think Hams would be probably Pabst. I think is from that region as well, where I'm from. This one is from, it doesn't say right here, headquarters in Los Angeles, but I think it was originally produced in like Milwaukee or something. But yeah, I haven't heard of that, so yeah, I'll have to check that out when I go back to the States again. Schaefer beer from the top quality, huh? Okay. Silver Fox Finance, my cousin. Salute to you, my friend. I hope you had a good holiday with the fam, with the children. Wet my willy. Yeah. I that was a mistake, obviously. Wet the whistle. So, Brooke, do you plan to come back to live in the States? That's not really what I'm feeling of doing in the near future. No, no. I mean, I've been spending so much time abroad, and I do really enjoy having my expat lifestyle. So when I go back, I do miss some of the benefits of being back in the States. There's a lot of things that, in terms of efficiency and in terms of just like, being closer to my cultural identity and behaviors that feel more comfortable. But then also right now, I mean, especially right now with the different political clashes that are happening, and it seems pretty uneasy. My friend, actually, a guy I met here that I recorded an interview with, that hopefully I'll be able to. We recorded at night, so I haven't been able to like adjust the video and make it watchable. But we chatted about him living in Mexico. He's from America as well, and he's also a retired veteran. And he just went back, and he just messaged actually today. Hey, yeah, it's been kind of weird being back, a little bit uncomfortable, super expensive, blah blah blah. So, I mean, there's things I miss about it, but going back to go live there, I definitely am not planning anytime soon. I have probably 2, 3 more years on this trip alone to be able to, make the content I want to make, drive my bike through the entire continent. So, yeah, it's definitely not something I'm planning on doing anytime soon. Who knows? But probably not. Do they have cerveza Quilmes in Colombia? So, I didn't. I th- I think you can find it in like the specialty shops, yeah, like especially if you go to like the higher cost supermarkets, they have the imports, and you'll find the imports of practically the entire world, but then you're paying the premium on it. So if you want to pay the premium, you can practically find most beers that you could ever want, especially like big cities like Medellin and Bogota. Yeah, going to like the specialty, like the higher cost supermarkets. I can't remember the names that I used to go to when I first moved to Medellin. I'm like, wow, it was almost the same price as America. Why is Colombia so expensive? And then I realized, oh yeah, this is like the top tier supermarket, and they bring in a lot of extra, more more unique international brands and stuff. That's another part of why it's so expensive. So yeah, Quilmes, not common. Yeah, it's from Argentina, but I've definitely drank my share of Quilmes when I went to Argentina and had a good time there. I've spent probably a total of, I don't know, like 2 months in Argentina. Not too much. It's one of the countries I've spent the least amount of time in, to be honest. Okay, it looks like my video is lagging a little bit. I don't know if it's only for me. Um, yeah, here we have Tom saying it was a beer commercial. Yes, no, not from New York. Oh, okay, so. All right, so Quilmes is popular in Argentina, right? Yep, definitely is. Yeah, I've drank it many times, and especially like in Buenos Aires in the summer, it's stupidly humid and hot. And it was, I was in Chile. I was studying in Chile, and I flew over to Buenos Aires because it was a cheap flight Santiago over, and this was back before the when Argentina made its new peso and started from whatever parity 1 to 1 or something with the dollar, and it was 4 to 1 when I was there. And yeah, I remember went to Buenos Aires thinking as cold as Chile is at night, because Chile has the effect of the Pacific Ocean, the cold water, the cold current that cools down the entire country basically at night. So you have to pack for the warm day and for the cool night pretty much everywhere until you go to Peru basically. So yeah, that I went to Buenos Aires thinking it was the same there. No, 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 super super hot. Silver Fox, my cuz says, looks like Bulldog beer. I'm not sure I've drank that either. Bulldog. This is Club Colombia. Silver Fox. Yeah, my cousin. I hope he's doing well. I haven't seen you in a long time, so fly down to Colombia or down to South America when you can. My mom's been talking about visiting you. Salute, always, always. So Brooke, yeah, it's quite polarized here in Seattle. Yeah, Seattle, I could definitely imagine that's one of the spots where you can feel it pretty heavy because, yeah, yeah, it's big cities like in Portland, for example. My big cities have a bit more, a bit more clashes going on. My uncle lives in Oregon. He lives in, I think he used to live in Tigard, I think it's called. He lives near there now. And yeah, I think Oregon also, like Portland, that area specifically, also probably has some polarized, you know, atmosphere with the political climate, and yeah, I definitely enjoy being as far away from that as possible. Tom M. Elaine, one of my favorite things to do in Argentina was to go to this great pizzeria by Retiro train station in Buenos Aires and getting a pizza and a huge bottle of Quilmes La Torre. Well, Tom, if there's one thing that you and I have a lot in common, that is getting a big pizza and a huge beer. What I do is I put a huge amount of hot sauce, like spicy sauce, like the crushed red peppers, for example. I like having like super spicy pizza. And I used to make like my pizzas like fresh, like, from scratch or whatever, and put my own little seasonings in it and make it extra spicy. And yeah, like, the spicy beer with beer, or sorry, the spicy pizza with beer is just a great combo. Just, getting spicy food with beer is a great thing to put together. Way to go, Tom. I agree with you, says Elaine. Is Colombia the best you've seen and lived in, Elaine? It's one of the top. It's one of the top countries that I came to back in 2018, and I just keep coming back. And yeah, so I was mentioning here that there's a lot of reasons for coming here, and one of the huge benefits that this country has. I mean, I've lived in Asia as well, so I have kind of a broad, I think, perspective on living in developing countries. And in Asia, I mean, I've lived pretty much just in one, but I bounced around a lot of them. So, I was in Vietnam for 5 years, and I bounced around to Thailand and Philippines, and then I went to some more developed countries like South Korea, went over to Sri Lanka, Cambodia many times. And yeah, so what some of those countries don't have is the high mountains like here in the Andes. And that's what I was touching on here, that I think is a very important thing to keep into consideration when you're looking for a place, and that will be your perhaps forever home, is the geography that you're looking for. So are you looking for that hot weather? Are you looking for the coastal, the super hot coastal weather, the hot humid air in Cartagena? Are you looking for maybe the cooler weather, the Pacific side in Colombia, where I went with Gachina? I went to Buenaventura, which is still the coast, but it's quite a bit cooler. And or are you looking for the mountains, where I am right now, Pereira, in the central mountain range? So that will be something that you can definitely, research and go live there yourself, and feel out the situation. Do I really like being at 1,000 meters in Cali? Do I really want to be at 1,000 meters in Bucaramanga? And then you can, for example, for me, I was super shocked that Cali and Bucaramanga, they both are at 1,000 meters, but Bucaramanga actually felt a lot cooler than Cali. Cali felt a lot hotter, and I feel like it's because of the Paramo, big, huge mountain range that's super high, goes up to 4,000 meters, like right from Bucaramanga straight up. And I feel like that cool air kind of comes down and cools off the valley where Bucaramanga is. So yeah, we got some more chat going on. So yeah, like I said in the beginning of this, guys, I have this this presentation just kind of to get the chat flowing and to kind of bring up topics and whatnot. And yeah, we're talking about the geography of Colombia, but I see we're really getting the chat flowing here. Brooke, I'm from Seattle also. Oh, there you go. So we have some people from the same city here. Do you think there is any region in Colombia similar to Mediterranean flora and fauna? It's a weird question, but I want to have goats. can make goat cheese that tastes good. Well, that's seems like a fun thing to do. But I'll be honest with you, Brooke, I have not been to the Mediterranean. I have never been to Europe. One of those things where I still am saying, okay, I'll go there later. I'm just so much. I have been and was when I was first started traveling and living abroad. I want to go to the most extreme, different place that's not America. That's different from the place I grew up. So that's why I went to live in Asia. So hard to say the Mediterranean flora, 'cause I'm not really sure what exactly. I mean, I guess goats is part of that, but have I seen goats? I mean, I've seen like goat type of, you know, those type of like farm animals in the mountains, like for example in Ecuador, in the mountains though. So similar to the Mediterranean, it's a tough one for me to say, to be honest. I'm not really sure. Alan says, yes, been here a long time. Could you Facebook me? Yeah. Okay, cool. Making some connections. That's cool. James says, Salento has some breathtaking mountain views. Absolutely, James. Yeah. Salento, I actually, I was told to go there when I was first in Medellin. And that's when I was planning some trips to go there in 2020. But then that's when the COVID lockdown happened, and I ended up just staying in Medellin the entire time. But I was planning lots of trips in there, and I didn't come down here to Salento and to Pereira until this past year. So I ended up seeing it like a lot later than I think most tourists would. They would normally kind of book that into their first trip. I think a lot of people do that. I am born and raised in Seattle. There you go. So you have the Seattle homies here. Some friendships are forming. James says Finlandia. So I haven't been to Finlandia, actually, not yet. I went to a couple ones nearby there, like Circassia, and I didn't actually go into Armenia, but I've passed through many times when I've been going on trips with Natalie, and it looked really beautiful. So yeah, this entire coffee region is kind of mind-blowing how beautiful it is. Just doing a really short trip up and down the mountains, or just going from one mountain range to another. It's kind of a long day. Maybe it's 4, 6, 8 hours, but it's crazy how much you can see in one day just driving 4, 6, 8 hours within one country. Natalie says the ride to Buenaventura was wild. It was a crazy drive going down into Choco. That's for sure. Choco, for all of you that didn't know, I'm going to put this up here on the map. Let's get a map up here and show you guys what we did recently. Here it is, yeah. So we drove over from Pereira here over to Buenaventura, and it goes through this what's called the Valle de Cocorda, I think the Cocorda Valley, and then we crossed over from Buga going over to Buenaventura, and then as you go down the mountain, so you go up the mountains here, and then there's this beautiful little lake area. It's a little lake, I'm not sure, but you go through what's called this area of western Colombia is called Choco, and it's one of the rainiest places on the planet. So we got so drenched on that drive. It was kind of a crazy experience. Ooh, looks like my there you go. Okay, I gotta switch up all these things. Things are getting out of control here, guys. Things are out of control. It's one of my first lives here, so just kind of making things work. There we go. So let's go back up. Tom says, Eric, you can do spicy beer too. Yeah, it's true. Michelada in Mexico. That is true. Yeah. They have those packets where you can put it into the beer, and it has like the salty and the like sour flavor already, like that lime imitation, and then some of the picante de ají or whatever they put into that. Yes, definitely, man. Mexico loves spicy food, so that's another part of Mexico that I think America specifically we love that part, that it has that that extra kick in the cuisine that Peru also has, but I think Mexico is probably the leader in that overall. Beer and clamato juice with a salted rim like a margarita. In Puerto Vallarta, they call it the cielo rojo. Huh, okay, yeah. So I actually did quite a few videos in Puerto Vallarta as well. Let's go back to here, and I'll show you guys just to let you guys check out the playlist that I have here. So actually, when I started this channel, when I started making content, I was doing a lot of stuff in Mexico because I was there for 6 months, just like here in Colombia. But I spent a month in each city, and that's when I first started doing videos. So I thought, okay, maybe I can do like, you know, all the different topics I want to talk about for each city. And it was so much work, and I ended up like, you know, skipping out on making videos because I was just so busy editing and just trying to like get all that stuff together. So here's Mazatlan, for example, and Puerto Vallarta. I have quite a few videos there, like going to yeah, here it is, beer and pizza. That's exactly what we're talking about here. Yeah, going to me and my buddy Jaimitos from England. We drove Mexico on motorcycles together first time. And I have tons of videos. Those are my very early videos. So yeah, prepare for the cringe for my very early stuff. But yeah, I showed a property here that the guy let me show off, a $500,000 one. And, you know, there's a lot of cool things in Puerto Vallarta. And yeah, funny that we have the exact beer and pizza moment right there. Okay. Where are we going here? Also, less population in Bucaramanga and traffic than Cali. So lower, yeah, less people. Yeah, Bucaramanga is a much smaller city. It's kind of like similar to, I think, it's a little bit more than Pereira. I think they're both around. I think Pereira metro is around 1 million people. So I think Bucaramanga is close to that. We have, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. We have Alain talking of Eje Cafetero. Would you say Pereira is the best? Armenia, etc. You know, I'm gonna call you Alan because I think that's how you say it, right? And is that like a French version of Alain? Yeah, I think Pereira. It has. So the main three cities that people talk about in the coffee access is Pereira, Manizales, and I think Armenia is the other one. And I actually haven't spent any significant time in Armenia. I have spent a week in Manizales, and Pereira and Manizales, they do have one thing in common, which is they're super, super hilly. Like, so, you know, going up and down hills, if you're going by foot, it's going to be pretty constant there. That's actually in Pereira. Like where I am now in Dos Quebradas, which is the municipality next to Pereira, just crossing the bridge. It's actually quite flat, but a lot of Manizales is super, super hilly. And from what I saw, I mean, like I said, I haven't actually been into Armenia specifically. I drove past, and it's a very small town, very small city. I think it's quite a bit smaller than Pereira. So from my gathering, from me just my casual observation, I'd say Manizales is kind of the biggest city of the region of the coffee access, and then after that probably be Pereira, and then lastly Armenia. So it's the smallest city. One of my main things that I check into before I go live anywhere, since I really enjoy the gym, you know, is checking to see if there is my gym chain, the Brazilian gym chain, SmartFit. So I ended up, you know, I was looking into going to Armenia as well, or to, there's another city next to here. Anyways, there's a couple places I was checking out, and they all have smart fits. And actually, Scott, my buddy, who was in that video I showed to you guys from Pereira, the retired military vet, he went down there and he exercised there, and he said it was pretty good. So I don't know. Pereira is like the city I have the most experience in, and I've really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it here. It's a bit hot, and when it doesn't rain, so when it's rainy, it's pretty perfect weather. But it's been really hot. This rainy season has been really weird this year. It's been like April, November are supposedly the rainiest months of the year, whereas this April has been very dry. Like February, remember February, which is supposed to be like a very dry month, it was raining every day, sometimes 3, 4, 5 times a day. Whereas here, there's been a week where it didn't rain at all in the heaviest, rainiest time. So Pereira can be a bit hot. I think Manizales, for anyone that wants a bit cooler weather, that's probably going to be the best spot for them. I went to Bucaramanga, which is the goat capital of Colombia, and they had no goat cheese or milk on the shelves. Definitely saw an unmet market. Yeah, that definitely could be. It could also be a cultural difference. Perhaps they're not interested in it. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting observation. Joe and Clara, have you heard if U.S. military veterans are denied residency for fear they have PTSD? That's a really good question. I really doubt that there is any questions about PTSD. I'm pretty sure when you are applying to get the visas, you need to go through a health check. So, I think asking something so personal about, a kind of a pretty, sad condition that someone has now due to what they've been through. Yeah, I don't think that's a very common thing now. So I really doubt that's a real fear you should have for applying to. I don't know. Let me know if there are any visas or stories you've heard about that happening. But yeah, I really doubt that. I mean, I have a video. I'm going to show you guys again one more time the playlist here that has the military veteran, and he has he has his Instagram in the video, so you can contact him directly on Instagram. He has 2 channels, are his English and Spanish. Where is Colombia? Is this Colombia? Playlist. Properties, Expat. I heard Colombia. So yeah, I showed you guys earlier before. It's the interview with Scott. So if you want to jump into this video, you can check out his details there. He has his own channel. You can ask him if they asked, because he is a retired veteran and he has properties here, and he I believe is waiting on his residency papers to be fully tramitado. They're like processing everything right now. Let's go to Finlandia, says Gachinya. Well, maybe let's do that soon. James says Finlandia has the nicest little village full of colors. So yeah, one thing that confused me at the beginning was I was like, is it Finland? Like, is this like a Spanish version of Finland in the name, or Finland, or is it Finland? And then I realized it's actually Fi. There's no N. I think it's Finlandia. Are you actually talking about Suomi, Finland? I don't think so. I don't think we're talking about Finland. James says, Tom, it's a little town here in the coffee region. Yeah, exactly. Tom, Eric, drink more beer. Keep up, buddy. I'm pretty sure I am ahead of you. Tom, this is my first one, to be honest. And it's 9:30 here, Colombian time. Yeah, I usually have a couple beers or a couple glasses of wine at night to kind of get myself, get some sueños. Had a kind of a long day today as well. Long weekend of work. So we're going over here to James. Eric, I'm going to catch the remainder of this live chat tomorrow. Good night. Really think this went well. Again, thanks for your work and for the work you put into all you do. Thank you so much, James, for showing up and for watching the videos, giving your feedback. And let me know of anything you want to see in the next live. If there's things that we didn't talk about or things I didn't present. I actually didn't finish the rest of what I wanted to talk about with Colombia, but we have some good chats going on, so that's even better. So Tom, everybody, it was fun. Have a great night, and give Eric a thumbs up and subscribe. Buenas noches. Thanks, Tom. All right, let's continue on with the presentation. Well, yeah, we've been chatting actually for quite a while. Let's just quickly go through what I have left here so we can kind of get any more questions out and any more topics that we want to talk about. So yeah, as I mentioned, Colombia has lots of mountains, and everyone knows that has come here. This is a picture here when I was with Natalie in Cali. So we were doing a hike. Actually, this will be the Cali video that will come out soon. We did a hike. We chatted about our feelings of how it felt to be there as a non-Cali person, as a non-local, and our first impressions of it. This was back in Santander at the waterfall. I can't remember the exact name of this waterfall, but we did a hike out here. This is all done by Natalie researching. She has she loves the infinite amounts of paseos. I call it los paseos infinitos. So we try to go and do hikes and see nature and go out to visit places together. And this is one of them we did when we were in Bucaramanga. This is the drive out to go to crossing over the central mountain range going into the valley. I think it's called the Magdalena Valley, which is in between the central and the eastern mountain. And that one is like where you find Tolima, where you find some of the other like the Tatacoa Desert. And that was our first trip actually on my birthday, going out to Tolima. So we went through all these tunnels, and I wanted to kind of point that out. It was a pretty amazing trip, as you can tell. The mountains here, they're gorgeous, and the infrastructure for driving is incredible. So yeah, so when it comes to choosing your proper climate, that is going to deal with, in the tropics, of course, that's going to deal with the altitude. So it varies from according to the region, and Bogota is super cool. Coastal city Cartagena, they're quite hot, one of the hottest cities I've ever been to, and this diversity makes Colombia very unique, and that's probably one of the reasons why I keep coming back, is because of not only because of the people and the culture, but just the way I can really feel like comfortable in the country and enjoy all the other parts that I like. So I wanted to touch base on this, which is one of the things that, when moving abroad, you can take advantage of a zone called this Goldilocks zone. And I put a little a map here that shows the mountain ranges again. And so yeah, when you go up to certain altitudes, as I was mentioning before, Medellin sits perfectly in that. I mean, the Goldilocks zone is different for everyone. So if you like the hotter weather, and you want not super hot like coastal, you can still go to 1,000 meters like Bucaramanga, Cali. If you want the cool, like what is the eternal spring, Medellin, that's 1,500. So I think the eternal spring type of climate, like here in Pereira, we're at like 1,400, 1,450. I think it's kind of like the tip between 1,300 and 1,000 or 2,000. Let's say 200 is going to be like kind of the warmish and coolish spring type of climates. And then Bogota's at 2,600. So you can tell Medellin with its eternal spring has everyone beaten. And then we have Cali, estimated expat 1,500 people in Cali, and they're at about 1,000 meters. Barranquilla is next on the list. This is the list of going up and down based on the estimated expat groups from North America. So Bucaramanga is close to 1,000. Santa Marta is around there. Pereira, I guess it says 700. I'd be curious to see if that's correct or not. Manizales is right after that, and then Armenia. So these three on the bottom are right next to each other here in the coffee zone. We need to edit the video of Tolima and crossing the longest tunnel of Latin America. So when it comes to editing, there are so many like videos that I have, especially I have my other channel that I don't want you guys to be bombarded with videos of me driving my bikes. I know a lot of you don't drive bikes. You're not like bike enthusiasts like I am. So I have another channel called Moto Nomad Eric. And Natalie's reminding me that I have a lot of videos, and editing the videos on my Insta360, a camera that has, well, it's a action camera, but 360, so two cameras, one on each side. You have to edit both sides, and it's an extra step, so it takes a lot of work for that one. Yeah, so Colombian culture is another part that people come here for. So like here's a woman dancing cumbia. Cumbia is a big one. Salsa in Cali. Here you can see vallenato as another part of the type of dance and music. Salsa festivals such as Barranquilla Carnival. So yeah, Carnival in Barranquilla is one of the most popular in Latin America for sure. I think Mazatlan is one of the top. I spent the carnival there. I went to carnival in Brazil. I think that's number one in Latin America, if not the world. And yeah, Rio. I went there in Rio and also in Salvador de Bahia when I was there as a student. Yeah, so that's a huge part. And then Flower Festival, like I mentioned before, in Medellin, where they come down from Santa Elena to bring those flowers. That's a really cool cultural part. So this is me and Natalie recently here in Cali. We were dancing, or at least pretending to do salsa, which I am a terrible salsa dancer. So she wasn't having a great time. Sports in Colombia is something that I wasn't quite so familiar with, to be honest. I thought that it was just a football thing, really. And when I came here, especially here in the coffee zone, cyclists, so cycling, riding your bike through the mountains and whatnot, it's a lot bigger than I was expecting. So Tejo is another sport that is. I chatted with Gringo Mike. He mentioned that he has a friend that was managing Tejo competitions, which I guess is I'm not sure if it's a bar type of game or whatever, but they're throwing something. It kind of reminds me of like playing bags, we call it in Minnesota. Um, yeah, so this is an example of the biking that Natalie and I did. Gachi and I, we were here in the coffee region. This was around Santa Rosa, where she's from. And this is a hike I did up to Medellin. So hiking is definitely a pretty popular sport, pretty popular activity to get out in nature. So yeah, besides the sports, watching sports, right? So culture and sports. We have a game I went to here in Pereira, and as well, this is the people that invited me. They helped me get in, and I ended up having a good time with them. And this is watching football. Watching a local game with my buddy Danny, who actually I met in Brazil. He's from the U.S. as well. So overall, the whole cycling is a big thing, but football is huge here, and like people get they get into fights off, and sometimes they kill each other, which is a bit extreme, but it happens. And I remember seeing some articles, some news events of that happening in Mexico, like Querétaro. I have a Querétaro jersey, which is a part of Colombia or a part of Mexico where there have been fights that were so bad that people died. So it's kind of crazy. But this one I was showing you here, we were at this was the stadium here in Pereira. And to be honest, as I drink my beer and enjoy this Club Colombia, that is actually probably the thing I dislike the most about the football culture here, at least. And I think it's the same in Brazil, where you are not able to drink beer in the stadium because I think people are so passionate about football, like the soccer, that love for soccer and their team and their local team, and they're just too much drama, and people actually do get hurt. So I think that's part of the reason. So I went in there like ready to drink some beers, and I couldn't. All alcohol free, which they taste kind of terrible. Colombian cuisine, for people that this is what I've been told is kind of the Venezuelan arepa, but this one is by far my favorite. The arepas from Venezuela are fantastic. Here we have Natalie. We need to edit mountain cycling. Yeah, mountain biking. Gotcha. Mountain biking, yeah. Yeah, Colombian cuisine, I know some of my friends are not huge on it, but I quite enjoy it. So I'm going to show you a couple of different things that I've really I really enjoyed having the bandeja, which is the typical lunch, just bandeja is Spanish for tray. It's like a tray with different like spots for different types of parts of the dish. So for example, here in this dish we have the rice, the beans. Here's some fried arepa, and then some meat, beans here with some, it's pretty standard salad, meat, rice. So I call that the RBM. Natalie says, yeah, people get crazy drinking at the stadium, right? So that's definitely kind of a disappointment for me, at least, when you're in any sporting event in America. I mean, the beers are stupidly expensive. Like going to a baseball game. I remember going there with my family in Minnesota, and I bought a couple IPAs, and I think they're 16 USD. I'm like, wow, it's just insane how insane the prices are there right now. Yeah, so I quite like the cuisine, but I think the thing that stands out most about Colombia is the fruit more than anything. So here's mango, here's papaya. Papayas are huge. You can see it's like the size of my hand. Here we have all the different types of these are the standard fruit and vegetables I'll probably buy every week. So you can see a bunch of avocados, papaya, banana, tomatoes. I'll buy some onions and spinach. Those are my main things I buy, and they're crazy cheap. I think this costs like a total of $3 or something. And this is my standard breakfast, so it'll be like papaya chopped up with banana. I'll throw in some mango if I can find any. That's good and cheap, and I'll throw in some strawberries sometimes, pineapple, whatever. So yeah, I think overall the fruit aspect of Colombia is one of the top reasons to come here. So when you're able to afford to eat like really good food, and it doesn't cost an arm and a leg, doesn't make you tip, like what people say, go broke to be healthy in the US. It's just insanely expensive to eat healthily there. Here in Colombia, it's definitely not. So like a big papaya like this would be like $1.50 or something. I think when it's in season, I think I've paid as little as $1 for like a 4-pound papaya or something. And this is a mango. I think this probably costs, you can get it. I got a bag of mangoes. I think 4 mangoes, 3 or 4 for like $1.20. So this stuff is incredibly cheap. Just tropical fruits are abundant. They're everywhere. And yeah, so I actually didn't have time to get the pictures I wanted to show you of what is the main draw for the wildlife, the fauna lovers here, which is I haven't really seen any bears. If you go to actually there's a place to do some type of therapy with poison dart frogs, I think, nearby here, that was suggested by my buddy Sotaro. Pink river dolphins, I believe, is over in the Amazon. So, but here, specifically in Colombia, it's the country with the most species of birds. So I was going to put some pictures of birds, but I didn't have time. So yeah, you guys can imagine what I'm talking about. And yeah, so that was pretty much all I wanted to share. I feel like people are probably getting ready to go to sleep. We've had a long chat, a lot longer than I was expecting it to be honest. But I really enjoyed seeing all of you come on, share your night with me. I'm not sure if it's called Santo Domingo, Santo Viernes, Santo Sábado, Santo Domingo, the Easter Sunday. And I think since we made it to the end, if there's no more questions or no more things that anyone wants to bring up, we have one more here. Let's check it out. We got Brooke. The fruit selection is insane. My husband is half Venezolano and half Colombian, so I think the fruits are mostly the same in both countries, but on the coast, so many I've never heard of when he named them. Right, so that's another part of the cultural aspect. Like the culture meets, the gastronomy and the food that's available. So, the food they'll make when putting a certain type of fruit or a certain type of vegetable in a dish you wouldn't think about doing. That's kind of a really cool thing to discover when you're in a different country. And yeah, there's like fruits that you can find in Colombia. I feel like you can find a lot of them in Brazil, but from my time spent in Brazil, I know that the fruit's really good there. I've lived about 3 years in Brazil, and that I thought there was like the best place that I had found fruit in my life when I went there before Colombia. And then I'm like, oh my God, Colombia is like literally fruit paradise for its quality and definitely for its accessibility, right? So yeah, we have Brooke saying, I'm still always floored when I see guacamayas flying around. Wild. So Natalie says Minnesolano. So that's kind of a funny little inside joke I'll explain. So basically, you mentioned your husband is half Venezuelan. So I'm from Minnesota, right? Minnesota. And when you say Minnesota, really fast, especially in Spanish, Minnesota, it kind of sounds like Venezuela, right? Minnesota, Venezuela. So I have my Minnesota license plate on my motorcycle, and if I don't show it to them and they say, where are you coming from? I say, Minnesota. They're like, Venezuela? But you're Venezuelan? It's always funny to, kind of say that slowly or fast and see how people react, because it's so common for people to get confused by it, because it is actually sounds similar. And what I did in Spanish is I made up a term for a person from Minnesota. I'm sure it exists, but I just said Minnesotano, right? So, estadounidense for the U.S., and then Minnesota. Instead of Minnesotan in English, I'll do Minnesotano, and then Venezolano. So, yeah, if I say I'm Minnesotano, people also get confused with Venezolano. So that's a funny one to bring up. Yeah, so the fruits, like here, and going back to what Brooke said about the fruits. So, like, I remember discovering, like, lulo. Lulo's a kind of an interesting one that I hadn't really drank much of, and it's everywhere here. Like when you get the lunches, I'm a big fan of the bandejas, the menu ejecutivo, so having the standard lunch. And they'll always have like a juice included, which is insanely good value. We're talking like $2, $3, $4, $5 for a lunch, and juice and soup at the beginning, with some meat. Like I had a fish soup today, which had a ton of fish in it, and then a standard rice, beans, meat, vegetable, and $2, $3, $4 is insane. $5, $6 if it's really good, really expensive. So yeah, getting the fruit, avocados, for example. I think I've never found cheaper avocados than here as well. Like I think Mexico has the biggest avocado industry, from what I understand, especially going into the U.S. But yeah, the avocados I find here, I mean, I have a couple in my fridge right now. I mean, we're talking these massive ones. They're just huge, and they literally cost sometimes 50 cents, 40 cents for like a big one, and I bought like two for like $1.20. Just these like size of my head almost, like not that big. I'm exaggerating, but yeah. Here we have, welcome here, Conversation Club. What business would you start in Colombia? So hypothetical question here. I find that doing business in Colombia is very difficult. I don't have a business, and I don't plan on starting one, because I know from just the simple fact of how the country, it doesn't have a lot of flow of cash flow, like extra expenditures, the extra money that the US or the Canada or the Europe type of countries and regions of the world would have. Finding those markets, being able to sell to them is a lot easier. So in terms of like making a product and selling it, I think in Colombia that's difficult. And so I mean, me, since I see your Conversation Club, so maybe can't barely hear you. There's an issue with your audio. I agree. My volume is at max. Okay, let me turn it up. Sorry. Is this better? Yeah, I had to turn it down before because it was too loud. And now I turned it too low, I think. Can't barely hear you. There's an issue with the audio. Brooke says she's missing ajiaco. Okay. My volume is at max, and I have to get close to my phone. Okay, yeah, it's much better, says Jim. Okay, I wonder how I can figure out how many people are even on this chat, because I don't want to bore all you guys if I don't have any people here. Let me try and see if I can check that out. right here. I think I found it. Does it show here? I guess not in here. Okay, so same on the volume here. So yeah, my bad. Sorry about that, Brooke. Jim. Yeah. So I'm still kind of testing out. I'm using this software. Actually, this is recommended to me from yeah, it might be also the position of where I'm putting the microphone, because I'm still getting used to using the condenser mic. And 7 people says Natika. Okay, great. Well, thank you all for spending your night with me, hanging out on a Easter night on my second live, my first of this series. And yeah, I hope to be doing this for all of the countries that I've been researching. So yeah, feel free to jump on to the next country and chat about that country, what you've heard about it. If you've been there, you can share your stories. Talk about, I think I'll probably do Ecuador next. Ecuador is a really big one right now, and yeah, that's a place that seems like people are kind of scared to go to, and I went there with Natalie last year. I went there by myself for 3 months, and Natalie spent close to a month with me, or quite a while there. And yeah, so sorry about the audio part. It seems like I was kind of maxing out before, but maybe I'm good now. So yeah, yeah. Have you guys have you been to Ecuador? Now, a lot of you seem to be huge fans of Colombia. Obviously, this is the main topic of the video, but the surrounding countries, like you mentioned, Brooke, Venezuela. I've been really wanting to go there, and I ended up deciding to go around the rest of South America before I go in to there. And I don't know, I really wanted to go last year, but it definitely seemed complicated getting the visa and going in. So yeah, let me know if you have gone into Ecuador, if you are interested in checking out that live and chatting about that country, because it's one of those kind of, I guess, less discovered type of places. The funny thing is that, Jim says, the U.S. State Department classifies Colombia as reconsidered travel. I went to Bogota last summer, and I felt perfectly safe. So, Jim, Jim, the U.S. State Department, my buddy, I mention this guy a lot because he's kind of like my idol, my a guy I look up to, Scott Allen Miller in Nicaragua. He actually makes a lot of videos. He makes one video a day, and he's been making videos for years. So he has thousands of videos, and he talks about the State Department in detail. And he mentions that they actually don't have any requirement to tell the truth. They just are telling what will further the American government's interests. So the requirement to give information that is helpful individually for you is actually not required by law. So when you mention that the U.S. Department says to reconsider the travel, a lot of times when it comes to their opinion of where you should go, they're talking about places that perhaps they give their opinion based on the government and the person running that government at the time. Oh, this government, we get along with them right now, so you should go there. And so that thing kind of, I definitely, I started reading those things like when I first started doing like my first motorcycle trip in Mexico, 2017. I was driving this big Suzuki, and I started reading the U.S. State Department in Mexico, where to go, where not to go in Mexico, blah, blah, blah. And, I kind of read them about every city and every state that I went to before I went there. And I was like, man, there's a lot of don't go here, don't go there. And yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of opinions that I think are not like super like understandable. Like why would they do that? And there's places in the U.S. that you could argue would be as dangerous or worse. So yeah. in many ways. You got to take those suggestions with a grain of salt. Brooke says, great job, Eric. We were looking at Mexico, but now it's so expensive and the financial requirements are too high now. Yeah, so that's something that I was actually it was pointed out in one of the recent videos I made that the research that I did about Mexico was actually not correct. So yeah, it's I believe if you're not retired, like $4,000 or something. They're definitely going after the high income group to bring into Mexico now. I guess, after COVID or around COVID, that Mexico exploded. They didn't have the restrictions and people just wanted out of the U.S. They wanted somewhere that they didn't have to worry about the rules and the restrictions. And also, it's an amazing country and there's so many cool places to visit. It's huge. Yeah, I think that they got to a point where they're like, it's time to start controlling who comes in, and they want to have those people lift up the economy and the country with their like higher salaries. More HGHC says, hola, More. Buenas noches. How you doing? I also want to visit Venezuela, says Natika. Yeah, I want to go, but let's check out what happens with my visa first. I don't know how easy that will be to get. I hope it will be doable. Brooke, my suegro and cuñada are still in Venezuela. We won't go there still. Not safe enough, we feel. Yeah, so that's another part for me that's kind of complicated, that I'm on my motorcycle, right? And when I tell people that I wanted to go on my motorcycle, they're all like, well, especially if you're driving alone on your, U.S. plates. And I don't know, I feel like there is some like value in that having or being super cautious, because and that's another reason why I decided, well, okay, I decided to keep this until more towards the end of my South America part of the trip, because I have all these countries to go through and countries I haven't even been to yet, and I'll actually bring up the map so I can kind of quickly let you guys see what my plans are for these next couple years, because that's kind of who I am and what I'm doing, right? So since Venezuela's over here, going east, I was thinking about, why not cross over here, going into Maracaibo, from Riohacha, Maicao, and I was planning on doing maybe a month up in Santa Marta and then crossing over. And then I kind of like, when they mentioned, I would work online, so when they mentioned, hey, yeah, they actually have blackouts, I'm like, blackouts? Well, that's not good. Like, I work online, and then I went to Ecuador, and guess what? Way worse blackouts. Classic, right? So, you got to do what you can, right? So yeah, I decided not to go. So my future plans will be to go through Ecuador, back to Peru next month, actually. Probably stay around here, Trujillo, Cajamarca area, which is kind of the northern part. And if I'm giving the 90 days, I'll be doing 1 month here, 1 month probably Lima, and then 1 month down in Arequipa. And maybe do a little trip with Natalie up to Cusco. As you can see, Lima to Cusco is a lot further than Arequipa. It's just quite far. Yeah, if you can hear, there's a dog over around the corner barking. There's a couple neighbors with dogs. Yeah, here over to Bolivia is next, and then I haven't decided which part to go to first. I was thinking Paraguay, Brazil, and then down to Argentina, but it depends on when it's summer and winter and not, so I can drive down to what's called Ushuaia down here. Ushuaia, right here. The bottom part of South America, in the Argentina side. So that's kind of one of my goals when I'm going down, is to go all the way down south and cross back up, and then go through Chile, which I believe Chile would be a good spot to do videos and show people that, but I believe that a lot of people don't go there because the cost is really high compared to the rest of South America. So perhaps that's the reason why people don't go so much to Chile, but I definitely want to get a couple months in there. That's where I studied Spanish, my first study abroad. So I was in Concepcion, down here in the southern part of Chile. So yeah, that's the plan. Kind of go through here, go back up through Chile or Argentina, cross over through Uruguay, and then go up through Brazil. I wanted to kind of do 2 different trips, maybe 3 to 6 months each, and then go through back up through the north, and then perhaps cross through over to Venezuela at that point. So that's all up in the air about my visa, about what happens, but that's kind of what I'm kind of planning. So I wanted to put that out there. Brooke says, my husband, who of course is very biased growing up there, says Venezuela is more beautiful than Colombia. I've heard that it's amazing as well. I can't imagine. I'd say it's really difficult to compare the two, just because I don't know. They're similar in terms of geography in many ways, where they have the Caribbean, but Venezuela doesn't have the Pacific. And also, I feel like there's the mountains in Venezuela are not nearly as high in terms of elevation. Like, you have like kind of some higher mountains over here, but that's like way far from like the main cities. From what I understand, the main cities are all over here, and so you have the kind of the main mountain range here. Mérida is the highest city, I believe, in the country, and then yeah, Maracaibo, I was planning to go there, but I realized actually it's probably around the same amount of heat as Cartagena. And Cartagena is insanely hot. Barquisimeto I was thinking also, but everyone's like, oh, well, if you don't go to Caracas, you're not going to have even energy. Like, it's going to be cut once or multiple times per day. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to deal with that. And that's when I went to Ecuador, just as that started. Blackouts for 14 hours. So, yeah. I feel like, there's so much more mountain range with big cities here in Colombia that is the major benefit of living in Colombia. I mean, yeah, of course, there's a lot of big cities here, Maracay, Valencia, and yeah, they seem to have kind of cool geography as well. And Barcelona, Puerto La Cruz, Cumana, but yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of the country is like this national park here, and like a lot of beautiful nature and whatnot, small towns over there. But yeah, I guess my plan would be, if this works out long term, for going back up through Brazil, is to cross through either through the Guyanas, French Guyana, probably, I don't know, it's part of France. I don't even know if I can get in if I have to apply for the Euro visa to get in here. This is part of France. Suriname, which is the Dutch Guyana, British Guyana. Here's the delineated marks, so like the area where it's being kind of, negotiated, I guess, and the same thing here. But yeah, I was planning on crossing up through maybe Roraima, if there's some good roads and it's not like rainy season, and cross through into Venezuela through here. So yeah, it's always, future is gonna happen later, so not too big of a reason to spend thinking about that now. More, sorry I just came on late. How was Honduras? More. Well, Honduras, it was part of the group of countries I went into that had kind of a limited visa on it. So I actually wasn't able to stay as long as I wanted. I ended up staying a month in Roatan, like a week kind of in the Copan and yeah, let's go actually into the map. This is easier for me to talk when I'm looking at a map. Yeah, so I crossed in from El Salvador going up. Sorry if I'm not getting correct angles with the microphone. I crossed in through this Santa Rosa de Copan. This is where the ruins are. And then I drove over to San Pedro. I spent like a couple days there. It was super, super hot, and I had my goal was to get over to Roatan, so I ended up shipping my bike over on the ferry, spent a month there, and then drove down from La Ceiba to Tegucigalpa. I spent a week there, and yeah, I didn't go down. I wish I would have checked out the Pacific side as well, the Gulf of Fonseca, but overall, I was pretty impressed by Honduras. I mean, in terms of driving in the roads, the worst roads I probably ever drove actually on the trip were between Copan and San Pedro Sula. They were absolutely terrible. But overall, I mean, I didn't feel like it was this overwhelmingly dangerous place like people say, even in Tegucigalpa. I mean, I made some videos in like the downtown. If you're interested and you want to see more videos about that, I definitely have some some extra stuff I haven't gotten around to. I did some videos downtown to Tegucigalpa, going to the markets over there, and I actually already have a video. I'll bring that up right now. I already have a video. Can you see that there? Yeah, in my Honduras playlist. Couple videos there showing, here's Honduras, showing, so this one is in this one was in sorry, I'm blanking out, San Pedro Sula, Roatan, quite a few was in Roatan. Roatan, this one was over in Tegucigalpa. And this is the walking kind of area, the park looking down into the valley of Tegucigalpa. I really liked Tegucigalpa. The climate and the altitude was perfect, I think, for good weather. Yeah, so that was quite a surprise to me. Jim, the Mexico rules from the State Department are really specific. They even mention specific highways to avoid. Yeah, exactly. So that's, when I was reading that, Jim, I was like, what? Why? Like, don't go to this exact street. Like, what? Why is it so specific? And I mean, I don't take that stuff into consideration anymore. I think it's kind of an exaggeration to give such incredibly specific stuff. Like, and when I was driving around Mexico the first time, I took all the locals' advice. Oh, don't go here, don't go there. Make sure I mean, some of the advice obviously is really good. Oh, don't drive during the day. Make sure to take the standard precautions, which I was like, oh, okay, yeah, thanks. And ended up realizing that, I don't know, my lights is like basically not working. I realized that the locals, they're like really, really overly cautious. So yeah, making sure to, really take advantage of what they say, but not every exact little detail. Like, they told me not to go to Guerrero in certain states. I'm like, a full state? Are you sure? Like, there's places like Zihuatanejo, which I absolutely loved. Here, I'll show you guys. Here in Mexico, they said, do not go to Guerrero, this state right here. And I was like, what? I've been around to places near it. Oaxaca, went down to Puerto Escondido before that, and I was in Colima, and Colima's, don't go to Colima, Colima City, oh my God, so dangerous, blah, blah, blah. But then I went over to Zihuatanejo, which is a super popular, amazing beach town, like just gorgeous. I was blown away. And then Acapulco, same thing, unbelievably beautiful city, like this little bay area. And I spent a month there, and I couldn't believe it. So yeah, when it comes to even the locals, they are definitely, they mean well, but I learned to kind of, take it with a pinch of salt, if you know what I mean. Jim says Merida, for example, is very safe. Okay. Yeah, Merida in Mexico, you're saying, right? Yeah, because Merida, I definitely stayed a couple months there, and Merida's fantastic. I mean, in terms of the weather, not super fond of it. It's way too hot. During the dry season, during the winter, I think it's like, what, in the Fahrenheit, like still 70 degrees at night, so it's super hot. But I was there in the summer the first time I went, in June, July, August. It was ridiculously hot. So yeah, if you're into the hot weather, that's the place for you. Very safe. It's called like the Ciudad Blanca, so the white city. So yeah, for people that are worried about safety reasons, yeah, like that's a good option for them. Brooke says we visited Merida and it was lovely, but it is melt the soles of your shoes hot like Phoenix, Arizona. Exactly, it is way too hot there. If you go during, like I said, the winter, just like Arizona. I went to Phoenix in January. Oh, what a beautiful place to be in January. Super good weather, like going hiking in you can go hiking in the desert and not worry about, dying from heat stroke or having any bad things happen like that. Mora says, actually, it is a 90-day visa. We'll check it out in 2 weeks. So Mora, so what happens is that area is called the CA4. I'll jump onto the map again here. So the CA4 is a region of 4 countries: Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, and Nicaragua. And these these 4 share like they have like a shared visa of the region. So when I crossed into Guatemala, I crossed here in Tapachula, and I came in through here and then went up to Quetzaltenango, Shela. And as soon as I came into Guatemala, the visa for all 4 countries, the clock started ticking, So I ended up not actually staying as long as I wanted overall, because I prefer staying a month or 2 in each country. I ended up having to kind of cut them short, 6 weeks for a lot of them. And yeah, so when you come in with that visa, I mean, for example, if you go to Guatemala, you could just cross back to Mexico and then go back to Guatemala and it restarts. So that's actually not an issue. But if you're in El Salvador and Honduras, that's where it gets difficult, because in the middle countries, you have to cross through another country. I mean, it's not that big. Like, usually you can get through the country pretty quickly. So if you're in Honduras, for example, in Tegucigalpa, and you want to do you can call it the visa or border hop, or what do you want to call it, you can do that going to Costa Rica, for example. Go on a bus, but it'll take quite a while. You have to go through a border stop, and yeah. So, in terms of being in these countries, for the visa part, if you want to just stay, for example, if you want to just stay the 90 days in Honduras and then extend it for another 90, because you can do the 90 on top of the 90, then yeah, that's, oh my god, got some dog battles outside. Yeah, so if you're doing just one country or one area, yeah, I don't think that's a super huge issue, no. But if like, for me, like living in each country and trying to do like 1, 2, 3 months in each one is just impossible. So it was a little bit disappointing that I couldn't do as much as I wanted. Eric studied geography, map lover. Yeah, that's me. Thanks, muchos gracias. Okay, you're welcome, more. Griseo. Oh, best building structure, houses, condos that you have seen in Latin America for a reasonable price. Okay, Morales says, yes, I am aware of the CA4. Okay, yeah, good. Yeah, so it's just kind of took me by surprise. I knew that there was kind of a weird visa situation there, but yeah, if you're not going to be like doing what I'm doing, I think it's probably not a big deal. Griseo, I'm not really... It's hard for me to say what are good prices for houses, condos, properties, wanting to build something in the future or already built, because a huge part of it is the location. And I'll give you an example. So I'm going to go back to the YouTube playlist here so I can show you guys what I was doing in Mexico. So in Mexico, I did a couple... I need to get one more beer. I need to wet that whistle again. One sec. Okay, so here you can see that there's a property that I showed here, okay? And this is in Puerto Vallarta, right? So if you're looking for value, like popular tourist expat zones, like, I hope this doesn't explode like the other one. Okay, this one's good. Oh yeah, it did. Yeah, this one did too. This one is $500,000. So when we're talking about, having, I mean, this is the asking price, so it's probably not what it sold for. Maybe it got even more expensive after. This was 2 years ago when I checked it out in 2022, 2023. So yeah, like the location is super important. So I would say if you're looking for a property or you're doing some research into like where you might want to buy property or construct something yourself, I mean, I would probably just start by searching where there's like the climate that you're looking for. So for example, here in Colombia, where I am now, I love being in this mountain region, right? The Andes. So if I wanted to like look for a place that was like high value, I would probably start by looking where's the weather that I like. For example, I like the weather at we're at like 1450, 1500 meters right now. So I would start by looking at like if I'm going to be living there, if it's not for like Airbnb for some type of income, I would like check out the weather and I'll go live there for 1, 2, 3 months. Check out the dry season and the rainy season just to see how I feel in it, if I'm comfortable there, and that would be my first step. I wouldn't really if I'm planning to live there, I wouldn't want to go somewhere and then not realize later after I have a property there that I'm not super happy with the climate. So I would probably try and find places and then start researching what areas have similar climates or what are at similar elevations. Or for example, here in Colombia, Armenia is at a similar elevation over here. Manizales is a bit higher, but this is really good too, about 2,000 meters or a bit higher than that. Yeah, even here in the Valle de Cauca, this valley, Cali's 1,000. So yeah, I'll probably just try to find places that are maybe undiscovered cities that have the climate that I like, and make sure it has all the basics that I would want. So for example, I really enjoy going to the gym. Getting a smart fit gym nearby is important. So yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of good deals if you start looking around at like undiscovered areas. For example, where my girlfriend Natalie lives near Santa Rosa, there's probably a lot of options. It's kind of a common place to visit for Colombians, but I feel like it's quite undiscovered for foreigners. That's kind of my view of it. So in terms of like I'll just give you a long story short answer. If you're looking for value, Nicaragua. It's a hotter country, so if you're okay with going to a place that has, this is on the sea level, you can build there for very cheap, and cost of living is very low, labor is low. You can build. I mean, my buddy Scott Allen Miller on his channel, he talks about it all the time. I interviewed him as well. I'll show you guys here, so I keep on talking about him. Might as well show what I'm talking about here. So I chatted with Scott. Here is Scott. About living in Nicaragua, and he has a lot of videos on his channel about actually like very detailed videos about how much it would cost to build houses. He showed a place that he didn't build, but that he could build for like as cheap, like buying the land and like building the property for like as cheap as like $15,000. So in terms of like value and opportunities for building and for getting properties, like I think a good option, just if you were to say choose one, I would say Nicaragua. Yeah, because it's a safe place, it's super safe, and it also is up and coming. I'd say at some point it'll probably take off, and it seems like lots of people are already moving there. Where's CA for? Have you, Murray again, have you in your travels encountered drinking the local water you got sick? That is my concern. So, Murray, I think the worst experience I've ever had with getting sick from drinking water was probably in Asia. So, like, I got really sick drinking tap water in the rice paddy towns in Vietnam. But besides that, I can't think of a single time that I knew that I got sick from water. I mean, maybe I got sick from water at some point or another, and I thought it was the food, perhaps. But I can't think of one time that I actually like definitely got sick from the water. Like I knew it was just the water, So no, I haven't really had much of that issue. I know some countries are kind of famous for not having good, like, safe drinking water, so you should just stick to beer. It's getting everywhere. But I think Mexico is one of them. Mexico is a place where you should drink tap water. I think in general. Peru, I did drink tap water there and didn't have any issues, but a lot of times the locals, they'll boil the water first before using it. So you know, when you see that, you're like, okay, that doesn't really seem right. Doesn't seem like this is the best quality, right? So other countries that I've drank the tap water, I don't remember ever getting sick from them. If any other stories come up in my mind, I'll let you know. But going through like the places that I've been making my content, I mean, Panama, didn't have any issues there. Nowhere in Colombia have I really gotten sick. Costa Rica, no. Nicaragua. I'm trying to remember if I even drank the tap water in a lot of these places, because basically when I am going to a new country, I always immediately ask where I'm renting my apartment, because sometimes it's kind of like a local situation. It's not like the entire country is bad or whatever. Sometimes it's kind of like, oh, this city is good and this city's bad. The same thing in the U.S. So in America, if you're from where I'm from, Minnesota, I mean, in general, tap water is very good. People have been saying it's getting worse as there's more farming, and that farming, all of the pesticides and the chemicals in the the agriculture and the vegetables or whatever they're doing, spraying pesticides on the farms, that goes into the rivers, and that's contaminating the water. So people have been saying that things have slowly been getting worse, perhaps, but yeah, like for example, if you compare Minnesota to Michigan, where Michigan is kind of famous for having really dirty, unsafe water, then yeah, it's kind of a regional thing. So in terms of that, I would say it's always best to just check where you're going, specifically asking the people even before you go, so you can make sure if they have like a lot of the countries that don't have safe drinking water, they have the big water jugs, like 2 gallons or whatever, and you can fill those up super cheap. I remember in Vietnam also, like I said, I got super sick there. The water, unless you boil it like a lot, you shouldn't drink it. So we have those big jugs, and those cost like, I don't know, you can get them as cheap as for like, I think it was less than $1 for like those 20-liter ones. So yeah. How about current locations water? Yeah, I drink the tap water here in Pereira constantly, no problems. I can't think of a place where I didn't drink the tap water. I think, okay, so if I'm being honest, Santa Marta, since it's like kind of the desert area, it's like the beginning. Here, let's go back to the map. Since it's the beginning of where kind of this desert area begins, see how it kind of turns into the desert, starting over here. Starts to get slowly arid, and then it becomes an actual desert. And yeah, so when I was staying in Santa Marta, it's very dry there. It's very dry. And I was in Taganga. And I felt like Taganga was maybe not super developed. And Santa Marta was relatively developed. But since it's such a dry area, and you can go as far as, was it Minca? Right here, Minca? Super close drive. And it's super wet there. And it's super, super dry in Santa Marta. It's crazy. So anyways, when it comes to like being in super like dry deserts, I always make sure to ask. Even if they say yes, I'm like, maybe. What I do is, since I go to my gym, I have my Smart Fit gyms. I always live in the city with the gym nearby. I'll go to that gym and get the drinking water from the gym. They have the filtered drinking water. It's safe from there. If you get sick by some enterogermina. Okay. Enterogermina, is that like a probiotics to put into your stomach? That kind of seems like it. James says, really, man, I don't trust tap water here. I boil. So I don't like drink tons of tap water, James. I do boil. I use most of the tap water here in Pereira for coffee. So yeah, the tap water, like I just mentioned, that I normally drink, I get it from my gym. So, you know, I go to the gym pretty much every day. You know, I'll do strength training like 6 days a week, 5 to 6 days a week. And then I'll fill up my water bottle, and that'll be enough for, you know, I'll make sure to fill it up before I go. And that's filtered water. It's very safe water. I mean, it's dishing out thousands of gallons per day for all the members, you know. So in terms of like drinking a ton of just straight tap water, I don't drink only that, but I generally use it for tea, for mate. I drink mate, the Argentinian tea, and the coffee that I make for, you know, my mornings. I'll have those as well with the tap water. And then if I need some extra water, I freeze the water and I use it for ice as well. So yeah, I guess some people have, you know, everyone has a different tolerance, you know, in their stomachs. And I've lived in so many places that have, I think, a lot of extra bacteria where I'm kind of immune, I think, in general, compared to the typical, you know, North American stomach. I think I have a really, really strong stomach from living in Vietnam, and I definitely got sick there a couple times. One time specifically about the water. James says D1 has great deals on water. D1 is one of my favorite stores here. James, D1 is my favorite store here. 100%. It has all the basics you need, and like, I mean, if the only thing that would make it better is to have the, like, some, you know, the Exitos here have, like, a lot of them have the auto cobro, like the self checkout. So if that were an option, then D1 would be the best place ever for just all the basics. You know, the rice, beans, meat. I mean, the vegetables aren't very good, and the fruit normally isn't either. But yeah, getting coffee. There's even like reasonable wine. There's you know, peanut butter you can get, like chocolate, like literally all the basics. And, you know, if you don't have a very demanding lifestyle or demanding, you know, palate for eating, then yeah. I was surprised at the differences from, like, I mean, sometimes Exito and D1 are on the same level of price, which D1, if you want to go there, and you're if this is all for, these are all tips for people that are trying to watch their banks, you know, if you're trying not to spend too much. So like Exito has really good discounts. So if you're shopping at the Exito, I'm going to show you guys what Exito is so you can kind of follow along with what James and I were mentioning here. So Exito is it's a supermarket here that has some good deals if you buy mainly the discounted stuff, which they'll sell like coffee, whatever it is. There's papaya or beers. I remember buying beer with Natalie. We got some costeños for like ridiculously cheap. I think it was like $2 for a 6-pack. Costeño, like good beer. There is a store called Mercamas down the street from where you live, which has good deals next to Unico. Yeah, I've been to Mercamas, and I didn't like it, man. Mercamas was just too busy. It was huge, and it was so full that I was like, oh my god. Yeah, I bought fruit and vegetables there one time, and it was crazy busy. You know, there were too many people, so I ended up just going home. I bought like one banana, and I was like, this is too busy, and you know, people are bumping into me and stuff, and it might be a little bit cheaper than some places, but you know, the difference is almost unnoticeable. So yeah, good point though, James. Yeah, I saw that, and I went there one time when I had my motorcycle worked on in the Honda dealership next to where I'm staying over here. I think this is what you're mentioning right here is the mall you're bringing up somewhere around here. I think it's over here. So yeah, I dropped off my bike at a Honda shop, and then I ended up walking around there and checking places out. So yeah, this is where I'm staying here at the moment. Here we have James again. Were you there on the 1st or 15th? That's when all the Latinos get paid. Yeah, right. The quincena. I don't know. To be honest, it felt like it. It felt like it. So maybe you're right. Maybe it was just the wrong day to go. It was an absolute zoo. Literally, like I was getting tackled football style by grandmas everywhere, and just niños everywhere. I couldn't get anywhere. Natika says the Éxito brand stuff is cheaper than D1, and you get points to redeem afterwards. Yeah, Éxito brand stuff is pretty cheap, and like I said, I think my main thing to do there is to get the the discounted stuff of just whatever regular brands. If we're talking about getting a costeño beer or whatever beer you like, sometimes they'll just want to get rid of the older stuff so they can get the new shipment in. And yeah, the Éxito brand's good too. So yeah, that's a good point. Good point, Natika. But yeah, Merca Más for me, James. I don't know. I'll have to give it a try again. I think, yeah, that might be just because of my bad luck stopping in on the wrong day. Yeah. So, well, guys, I think I'm gonna call it quits tonight because I have to wake up in like 6 hours to work. For those that don't know, I am a teacher. My main income is from teaching, and I teach ESL, ELA, basic Spanish, basic Portuguese, and I have some English classes in the morning. I teach Chinese in the mornings, and yeah, and that's how I do my trip and my project. I get my funds from these things, and then I spend my other time doing this project and just kind of checking out the world on my motorcycle, and it's been pretty amazing first couple years. I'm about 2.5 years deep. I think I have another 2.5, 3 coming up. So yeah, falo português, more, as I do. I mean, my Portuguese is really rusty right now and ferrujado, but I mean, it'll pick back up when I come back to Brazil again. I lived 3 years in Brazil, and I studied in Salvador da Bahia, Universidad Federal de Bahia. That's the difficulty I have with Portuguese, is that when I'm speaking a lot of Spanish, my Portuguese starts to the level goes down, and then when I'm speaking lots of Portuguese, my Spanish starts to go down. Right? So, se estou falando muito português, meu espanhol vai começar a falhar. Right? It's gonna get worse or become a bit worse, and not I won't be able to speak as fluidly, and when I go back and forth, it becomes an issue. But yeah, that's kind of I've had some classes where I've taught some basic Portuguese, and I'm at a point where I need to go back to Brazil just to catch up on the last time I was there was in 2021. So yeah, that was a bit ago. So 4 years ago. I need to go back, and I'm gonna be making lots of videos for this channel when I get over there. Ditto, I have to make sure I'm using the correct language. Well, guys, I really appreciate you spending your Easter night with me and talking about Colombia, and I definitely hope that you want to that you're able to come and check out the future living in LATAM videos and chats we're going to do. I think next one will be Ecuador. I'm going to try and plan that out before I go to Peru. So I'll be going down to Peru around I think May 18th. So I'll probably try and get this next one out in beginning of May, sometime around there, and get that one ready for a new chat, so we can chat about any of you that have gone there or that are thinking about going there and get some more information about that. I have tons of videos, as I mentioned with my my playlists I have right here. I have the Ecuador playlist and tons of videos. I don't know why this Predator one's in there, but yeah, we have the chats with Michelle, my 5 pros, 5 cons, a lot of like retirement and visa and housing videos. I hope those help out for the people that are looking for that stuff. We have some chats. Well, I'll have a lot of chats here. It's me and Natalie in the coastal area, Amape, whatever it's called. I can't remember. Ayampe. Yeah, so I have a ton of content in Ecuador. So yeah, hopefully we'll get that ready for you for the beginning of May. Anyways, happy Easter to all you guys. Felices Pascuas. And we'll see you in the next time. Hasta la próxima. Buenas noches.